Hi, I'm Non from My Authentic Style, and this channel is dedicated to helping you find your authentic style. In this video, I'll be discussing the Kibbe Romantic, the body type, the style profile, and as usual, I'll be sharing a sample wardrobe for this type. As with all the previous videos, this assumes that you've taken the Kibbe body type test and you've determined your type to be romantic. If you haven't, I will add a card so you can go through to that video where I take you through the test and all the answers, and it'll help you determine which of these body types you most likely fall into. For a romantic, a sample answer sheet may look something like this: a lot of D and E answers, so just conveying a lot of softness and roundedness. This is the most plush, soft body type. Your position on the yin yang scale is extreme soft yin. It is the uttermost yin that yin can get. So it's completely soft, just characterized by that lushness, that softness, and smallness as well. And now let's discuss the Kibbe Romantic body type. Kibbe characterizes this type as the dream spinner. And while every romantic woman will look slightly different, it is the presence of a petite frame, double curve, and lush, round softness that makes the romantic. If you are unfamiliar with some of these terms like yin and double curve, I recommend you go to a previous video that I will link here where I explained some of those terms, and it'll help you to grasp this Kibbeverse terminology. Getting back into the body type. Height. Moderate to petite, usually 5 foot and under. Body type. Soft and voluptuous, although trim and smallish as opposed to wide and bulky. Hourglass figure, curvy bust line and hips with a small waist in proportion to the curves. Soft or fleshy arms and legs. Bone structure. Delicate and smallish, usually on the wide side. Rounded or sloped shoulders. Small hands and feet, maybe slightly wide. Facial bones are small, delicate, and maybe slightly wide or lush, as seen in the nose, cheekbones, and jawline. As a note, Kibbe says, if your bone structure is slightly wide or lush, you may think of yourself as having a large bone structure. However, the shortness of your limbs and extremities, as seen in your hands and feet, offsets the width. In the context of your overall voluptuous figure, your bone structure is delicate. And I think this is useful because he speaks to some discrepancies that might lead to people not being able to understand their body type correctly. And in this case, romantics having lush flesh on top of their delicate, small structure can make them think that the flesh is quote unquote large. So they have a large bone structure, where in fact, their bones are small and delicate. They just have soft flesh on top of it. So in Kibbe terms, how the skeleton behaves is quite separate to how the flesh on top of that skeleton behaves, if that makes sense. And I'm glad he tried to clarify that. Facial features. Lush, full and central and rounded. Large, luminous eyes. Full lips. Fleshy cheeks. Coloring. Any coloring, warm or cool, high contrast or blended, is possible, but a romantic usually has a delicate skin tone that is luminous or translucent. Again, we're going to stick to that first sentence where basically anything is possible for all body types. Likewise, hair, soft and luxurious, may be silky and wispy or thick and wavy or curly. Again, I would add that anything is possible for any of the body types when it comes to hair, texture, and coloring, and all of that. If overweight, the body gets more rounded, the face gets full. So, as a case study, we're going to look at Beyonce, who will feature a lot in this breakdown, just because it's so easy to get images of her. And I apologize if it becomes a little bit Beyonce central. I tried my best to diversify it, but just a note up front. In any case, here she is at, I think, possibly her lowest weight that I've seen her in. And I remember at the time it was a big thing that she slimmed down so much, because it just stood out because she naturally always has a bit of flesh to her. So we can see here at her low weight that she, people were saying that she looked unhealthy. And I just think it's that juxtaposition of A, being used to seeing somebody at a particular weight and then them drastically losing that weight, or what feels like drastic weight loss. And also, I think our eyes are trained to sort of understand when somebody is balanced, and that just looks different on different people. And for her, as a romantic type, she does look underweight here. So everybody just picked up on it. So I would say that that's something that happens with this type. At very low weights, it's very evident on them, right? This wouldn't be the case for, let's say, a dramatic, because at low weight, they're still very much in synergy and harmony with their long, lean bone structure. But for a romantic, that loss of lushness in the flesh just stands out as this is odd. So that's something to look out for. She doesn't look bad. I mean, I don't think it's possible that Beyonce can look bad, or generally any of the women that I discuss, but it doesn't look, there's something about it that feels a little bit off and not quite right, not quite harmonious. Just you feel that way. And I find that with this type. Here, she's at a lower weight, but this feels more in alignment with her. She just looks great. She looks like she toned down and she has great shaping, but you can see that lushness of her flesh. And for me, for my eye, this captures her better than that first representation. So that lushness that's allowed to now be in her body gives her a sense of life, and she fills out more, and then her curves become more prominent because you can see her waist is cinched in because there is more flesh. And it's not even that her waist cinched in, it's that I think the widening happened in her hips and her, the rest of her body. So she gets that shape back, that hourglass shape back. And just moving across those three images in the middle, in that yellow bikini, she, I would say, was probably at the lowest weight of that section. And you can see in her tummy, it's very taut, very flat. She's probably working out a lot. So it's just a slightly more chiseled and toned and defined body type, but still beautiful shaping for her. In the middle, in the green bikini, just a little bit softer, like a more relaxed lushness to her, less of that very taut stomach area, but she still looks so lovely. She looks so feminine, and she wears that additional softness really well. And that last one in that very tropical style one piece, you can see that softness in her derriere as well. So just like she looks lush, and it really suits her. And then here she is older, so I think for most people that just comes with its own weight gain, and perhaps a maturing of the figure and just that settling into itself. But she looks amazing. She looks very lush, and she looks like Beyonce. There's that shaping, there's that softness. She looks great, and she looks well proportioned. And then in this last image, I would say this is her probably at her biggest weight that I've seen when she was out and photographed because she was at an event. I think this is close to when she had one of her children, so she was losing baby weight. So just keep that in mind. But even there, all I see is there's more lushness, there's a widening. Her leg in that as compared to the picture right before it, you can see there's a thickness all the way through, just a widening of everything, but she maintains that shape, that hourglass figure. So even in that gold dress, I can still see where her waist is, and there is a natural cinching there. Whereas I can also still see that she gained weight everywhere. So her leg is wider, her arm is wider, and there's a bit of puffiness to her face. So she just proportionally gained weight, and that means that she is able to maintain her shape, which is, I think, a great advantage to this type. They carry additional weight probably the best. It suits them because it goes to quote unquote all the right places. And then here we have Drew Barrymore, and this is from a magazine photo shoot that she did a very long time ago. I don't even know the year. I think it might have been in the 2000s. I really have no idea, but you can see that she is obviously at a very low weight. But look at that figure and that definition, that waist. It's like super curved and super defined. Her waist is clearly cinched in. There's just curves to her body, even at that low weight. And again, that is a hallmark of the romantic. The way that their flesh sits on their bones, regardless of their weight, just creates those curves. So they always look feminine and womanly in that sense. And then in these next two images, Drew has gained a little bit of weight, but she's still very much at a low weight. You can see, as compared to that first image, just a softening of the flesh all across her body. So in her legs and the back of her arms, on her back, just everywhere. There's that plushness. The flesh looks like it would be very soft. There's that delicacy and softness and smallness to the limbs. And she just looks plush, even though she looks very skinny. And then in that black one piece, she's gained a lot more weight. I also think a lot of time has passed, probably a decade plus. I don't really know when this image was taken, but there's a widening of her midsection. So she loses definition a bit, that hourglass figure. She fills out a bit. And I don't think that her hips have necessarily filled out to the same proportion for her. So it looks like she's losing a bit of that hourglass figuring. But even if you look at her in those middle images, when she filled out just a little bit, she didn't really have those crazy curves. So I think for her body type, rather for her specific composition of this body type, she has to be almost extremely thin as that first image to have that hourglass curvature. And when she gains even a little bit of weight, it thickens out for her in her midsection, so that she still looks skinny, but she doesn't have that crazily defined hourglass. And then in the black, it's just the same thing, but to a larger extent. And she still has the petiteness, and she still has that lushness all over in the legs and the arms. But that widening, you wouldn't look at her and think, oh, crazy hourglass. And I know I just said that that's a key component of this type, but clearly people wear it differently. And for her, it's good to see that this is not just true of her at a larger size, because it was true for her when she was much smaller too in those two middle images. So just a different way that her body is composed. And then in these last images, she has gained more weight, and a lot of it for her has fallen into her midsection. So I don't know how this would compare if she was in a one piece. I do still see some definition of her waist in that black one piece. And I think in these last two images, she probably wouldn't have it at all. It's hard to tell with the angles that she's standing at and how this was captured. But just there's that widening and that softness. So possibly for her, additional weight gain comes in at her midsection and just continues to make that waist more and more squarish, if that makes sense. And then, of course, with the additional lushness and plushness to her legs and arms and face and everything else. A romantic will not be extremely tall, have a large bone structure or large hands and feet, have a straight or boyish figure, have angular or sharp facial features, have a prominent nose or angular chin, be symmetrical. Here are some women with the romantic body type. The very bright green is women that Kibbe has verified, and the darker greens are women that Kibbe has suspected or even listed as being romantic, but he hasn't typed them in person. Going from left to right, there is the R&B singer Her, followed by Marilyn Monroe, Kate Winslet, Beyonce, Drew Barrymore, and Susan Sarandon. And here is a list of Kibbe verified celebrities. And now let's discuss Kibbe romantic lines. Shape. Shape is the key to your look. Keep your shapes rounded with soft edges. Circles, ornate swirls, and intricate flowing shapes are the direct expression of your extreme yin. Soft bouffants are also acceptable. Always maintain the hourglass figure. So these three images represent for me great shaping for this body type. I see circles and swirls in that pale blue dress by Drew Barrymore. There's circles at the bottom. I love the way that the fabric is folding in on itself, also circles at the neckline. Her hair is big and rounded, more circles there. So altogether, just that roundedness, and of course the dress itself is shaping her so beautifully. She has her waist cinched in. That mermaid shape is fantastic for this type, and she looks spectacular. In the middle, her is also wearing a beautifully shaped gown. The waist is cinched, and the top of it is doing this thing where it's rounding out right below the waist, and it's giving that circular feel. And the skirt of it feels very velvety and plush, and it pulls down to the bottom. Again, she also has that mermaid-esque shaping. Again, great for this type because it highlights the small waist and then flares out at the bottom, but still giving very tapered shaping through the legs. So it's just wonderful for them. And to the left of her, Beyonce's dress is more sculpted and stiff in the fabric that she's chosen. But in that sculpting has those circles, those layered circular shapes coming into the side. Very interesting. And she's done a lot of different things that make it work, even though, you might not think it would. The shaping of it, because of the stiff fabric, it's shaped her nicely. And the way that it comes out, sort of like a peplum, is beautiful because it again highlights the smallness of the waist. It emphasizes that, and that'll always be great for this type. And then she's given a bit of sheer leg, so leaning into the sexy, but overall the shaping of it is lovely. And again, we see that mermaid shape on her too. So across the board, wonderful shape for all these gowns that look amazing on all these women. Avoid all straight lines, all sharp edges. So here we see, moving from left to right, sharp lines and sharp edges in all of these suit choices. Drew Barrymore in that white, I just see the sharpness of where the coat ends on her, and it's like double. I don't know if that's a pocket above it, but those flaps are just very straight, very angular. The pant itself has that sharp crease, and so do the arms. And the tie has, as ties do, it points down to that V, but all of that sharpness is just angularity against her, and there's a very great deal of separation between herself, her soft, lush, rounded self, and all that sharpness. Likewise, Beyonce, she's done a better job of remembering to try and give herself some shaping by cinching in that waist, but it's really not enough to save the overall essence of this because it just feels very harsh, and the stiffness of the fabric and the heaviness, the visual weight of that fabric against her, it's, I would say, definitely better than what Drew has done, but the sharpness and the angularity of it, everything just feels very stiff against her, and I would like to see her in something gentler, softer, and that flows more and with a lot more roundedness to accommodate for her soft, rounded physique. Drew, again, in this boxy, oversized suit, a lot of sharp lines, and she's just lost beneath it and is sort of swallowed by how big that is on her. Just generally not one of her best looks. Avoid all geometrics. So, in this green suit that Beyonce has, she has tried again to give herself shaping by cinching in the waist, and the pant is tapered and tight fitted, but the edging of this coat, the fabric choice is too stiff and hard and heavy looking on her, and I imagine the texture is also quite hard, and the lines of it, the sharp V, everything just looks like it was mostly drawn with the ruler. You can see in her shoulders there's that detailing that just feels sharp against her. So I do see the effort, but it just doesn't pull together. And then to the right, that outfit is just drawn with the ruler. like two rectangles, top and bottom, the sharpness of the collar. It all just creates a pattern of angularity and sharpness that is very separate from Beyonce and her very soft and curved body type and flesh. Line and silhouette. Second only to shape in importance, your outline should always be soft and flowing silhouettes that showcase the lush curves of your body. Waist definition is essential, as is lots of gentle draping everywhere. So, moving here from left to right, that first black dress does such a beautiful job of giving Beyonce beautiful shape, and that silhouette just follows the curves of her body. So what I notice first is that silhouette, is that shaping. Her waist is so cinched in, and it's a long curved line, and a lot of different things coming together to make that outfit look wonderful. But it's soft fabric, glamorous jewelry, but the backbone of that outfit is the wonderful shaping that that gown has on her, and it gives her structure and shape, and she looks amazing. In the outfit to the right, that one does not have much structure at all. It's very soft and billowy. The fabric is soft and light, but it creates those big circles and it has volume, and that silhouette is still very soft and flowing and feminine, so it still works on her. And with all that flow, she's remembered to cinch in her waist and cement that aspect of her shaping so that it's not lost. So then the bigness of the pants at the bottom serve to accentuate the smallness of her waist. So she, in a sense, exaggerates her shape, and that silhouette becomes front and center again, although in a much less structured way as compared to that first look. But it's a fun look, it's flowy. I see lots of circles, and the fabric drapes into itself. It's very beautiful. And that last look is just a very simple dress that is typically beautiful for this type. It is like a second skin type of fit, so very tight and clingy, the fabric. And then it has that center line that creates all those gathers, and that creates draping around the shape of the body. Creates a beautiful silhouette, and it's also very forgiving for the softness of the flesh. It just sits on them the way that you would want it to and accentuates all the right spaces. Avoid all severe silhouettes. Here we have Beyonce in this tuxedo style outfit, all black ensemble. And the thing that stands out the most is the severe shaping of that shoulder line. It creates a very oversized and dramatic and sharp silhouette on her. And that triangle of the shoulders, and it's sort of like a leotard shape. And it's just very exaggerated and very severe on her. It really just looks very rigid and stiff and off and awkward. This is a very awkward looking outfit, and it gives the impression of her having tried too hard. So I would avoid anything this severe. Likewise, avoid all tailored silhouettes, all straight lines with angular edges. These boxy, oversized suits that both Kate Winslet and Beyonce are wearing, they just don't do much to accentuate the softness and the curvature of these women. In the first look, Kate Winslet, the fabric is even very stiff, so I'd say that one is more unflattering than even the white one to the right. It's just so structured. It's like she's in a box of fabric, and it's really not doing much for her at all. And then she's also has her hair pulled back so tightly that there's really no space for movement and that soft sense of femininity that this type, as it pertains to this type and how they embody it. So she looks very rigid, very trapped. The pattern of the suit, I think, does a little bit to bring back a sense of delicacy and softness, but there's too much working against it so that it just ultimately doesn't work on her. And then to the right, the pants, I think, are probably the thing that throws me off the most. The suit jacket is fine. She would be better served again in something a little bit softer in the fabric, but the fabric is okay, but something shorter so that we respect her short vertical line. But the length of this coat, it's not too bad. It's not as bad as the first one, but it's still just a little bit oversized in the mid section. I wish it was smaller, more tapered, more shapely. And possibly shorter for her, but then also the pants. She could keep this jacket if she was wearing pants that were fitted and were softer, and then it could be a nice balance. But as it stands, it's just she's there somewhere underneath that outfit, and those pants are really doing her a disservice. And then to her right, Beyonce in this grayish brownish suit is also just lost beneath it. It's too big, it's too boxy, and her shape is completely lost beneath it. There is a juxtaposition between her softness and her sensuality, which she is drawing on because she is shirtless beneath that blazer, but that against the very masculine and the wideness and bigness of this suit, it just doesn't work for her. I mean, we could probably create this for photo shoot purposes, but just looking at it as an outfit somebody would wear, it doesn't flatter her as something that was more fitted and that offered her shaping that highlighted her silhouette would. Avoid all vertical lines that hide the waist. So this dress is perhaps not the best to demonstrate vertical lines that hide the waist, but it still does a good job. It is vertical in the sense that it's one solid piece from top to bottom, and it does hide her waist in that it's not properly shaped to her body. It actually looks like it's a bit large just in the fit, like it should probably be a size or something smaller to fit her right. And then the dress itself has a silhouette that flares out and just widens her silhouette, and that doesn't work particularly great for this type because they are small in stature, and when you do that it just widens them visually. So this isn't one of Drew's best looks, and then that idea of being widened horizontally is further emphasized by all those vertical lines and how the dress is cut, and just not her best. Not this wouldn't be flattering typically for any romantic type. And then avoid all unconstructed boxy or horizontal lines. So here Beyonce is wearing this very soft fabric, unconstructed, feels very billowy, very light, but she is void of that structure and of that shaping. I can see sort of where her waist is, but it's not defined, and this body type really wants that to be defined. The fabric itself is a bit too light, and the way that it sits makes it loosey-goosey, for lack of a better term, but you want something that can sit firmly on the body type and maintain its shape, and this just doesn't do that. So she's lost beneath it and it doesn't flatter her at all. I wanted to explore this idea of all vertical lines that hide the waist in more detail. So here we have Beyonce in a couple of looks that I really feel do not flatter her, and what they are doing more than anything is maintaining one long vertical. So we have this solid coloring from top to bottom for the most part, and then we have very little in way of waist definition, or even if we have it, the nature of the fabric and the styling of the dress is such that it doesn't really stand out because there's too much volume in these dresses. So in that first one, we do have a cinched in waist, and it's clearly defined by that black belt, but the volume of the skirt is such that it billows out, and that waist definition is sort of, it's not lost, but it just loses the effect. So the length of the skirt also, because that cinching happens actually above the waist, so there's a long vertical created by the skirt, and it just swallows her up. So whatever good she's doing up top, the skirt itself takes up so much visual space that it doesn't actually count, and she's just lost beneath it. That sort of huge A-line and that type of fabric, not ideal for a romantic type. And then in the look to the right, there I don't even see where her waist is, because the fabric at the bottom of the skirt, it looks to be maybe some chiffony tulle, I don't know, but it's very big and voluminous. And then where it connects to the top of the dress, which is very fitted to her body, it doesn't do enough to define her waist. So it just kind of looks like she just opens up into a giant skirt, and that lack of definition doesn't suit her. And then there's this additional fabric that is on her arm. I think it's a jacket that she's half wearing, and then it just drapes to the bottom. Beautiful for a theatrical sort of look and for an editorial piece, but you can see that it's swallowing her up. and these fabrics aren't ideal for her. So it's just not a look that she is carrying off. To the right of that, that big yellow dress, the volume of that skirt and again the shoulders just really not ideal for her, much too big. And then the cinching of the waist, because of the nature of the fabric, we really don't get the effects of what that belt is trying to do. It's as if she's wearing a giant yellow tent, and that does not flatter her. And then to the right of that, that last outfit, the tulle fabric is a lot. The way that it is falling off her shoulder, it just looks like fabric is falling off of her. There's a lack of shaping, and then it has that long train. The skirt beneath it is at least well fitted to her body, but then what the bodice does with that fabric just falling over, it loses whatever good that does. And the waist belt again is there to cinch in her waist, but all I see is that fabric above it that's just falling over and strips her of that shape that the belt would have created. So again, she's just swallowed. There's way too much fabric in all of these looks, and she will never need that much fabric. All it does is take away her silhouette, and she's lost beneath it all. Fabrics. Lightweight fabrics that drape easily. Softly woven fabrics, challis, crepe, tropical weight woolens, jersey, etc. Ultra shiny fabrics, ultra soft or plush textures, sheer fabrics. So we want lightweight fabrics that drape because we want to maintain that beautiful shape of the body and bring it to the forefront and showcase it, but also allude to the softness. So nothing that is too hard and too structured. And that's why we want fabric that will create gathers and drape softly, that softness being amplified and repeated in the body, and the outfit creates that synergy and creates that harmony that just makes it look beautiful and natural on these types. That first look in that pearl pink kind of dress, beautiful on her. I like the diamante detail on the shoulder, and the neckline is asymmetrical, which typically you wouldn't want for this type, but because of the fabric, it's not straight or overly harsh. It has that softness. The fabric folds over gently. All of those gathers are there, and she just looks very beautiful and delicate and feminine and glamorous. So this type, glamour, it works hand in hand, and especially for somebody like Beyonce, who embodies also this essence, that just, she comes alive when all of this softness and femininity in this sense is done for her looks. And I almost think of this type as being the people that are able to wear prom dresses, prom style dresses, those ultra glamorous and feminine style dresses that become too dramatic for a lot of different types. For them, it's not too much. It just fits and they look great. Again, depending on essences as well. To the right of her, Drew Barrymore looks wonderful in this ensemble. I like the fabric here. It's soft, it's drapeable. We see those gathers and we see how it is cinched to her. It's like a second skin, but still allowing for movement, and it's draped beautifully to her. I like the detail on the shoulder and the waist. It's just very glamorous and she looks lovely. And then that last image, Beyonce is wearing a velvet style red fabric, and she looks lovely too. That fabric clings to her body. There's a belt that she can cinch in. Velvet is very luxe, very soft, a little bit of weight to it, but it still has that very feminine yet regal feel to it that again plays into this type and its essence. And the color red also doing the same thing. So she just looks very beautiful in that outfit. Simple yet classically romantic and elegant and glamorous. Avoid stiff fabrics and heavyweight fabrics. So these are very stiff and hard fabrics. That's the first thing I see. That dark blue with the floral embroidery dress that Drew Barrymore is wearing, you can see that that fabric does not move. It sits like that, and that just feels separate from her and will generally feel separate from this type. Likewise, the dress that Beyonce is wearing, she would look so much better in that exact same outfit, but if the fabric was softer and draped to her as opposed to being a heavier fabric that keeps its shape like this one, that doesn't work for her. And that black leather dress that Drew Barrymore is wearing, also too stiff and too heavy, and it's just sort of an encasing around her. She doesn't look bad, but if we're just judging the weight of the fabric, it is a bit too heavy for her. I will say that it does help that she has added a soft feminine pair of shoes, the color red, the open toe, and the length of the dress is not all the way to the ground. That would really be draining and would weigh her down. But the fact that it's just past the knee helps a lot. And then also the neckline is open. So she doesn't actually look awful in this outfit, even though this is not a fabric I would choose for her if she was going to wear it. This is one of the better ways. I think if her hair was more glamorous and softer and fuller, then she would look much, much better. And if she had a bag that had all the elements of softness and playful glamour, because I think her essence leans a little bit more in the playful sense. I think she has romantic but also some ingenue to her. Then she would have brought it all together. But just again, looking at the fabric, that is much too stiff and too heavy for a romantic type. Avoid rough textures and extreme matte finished fabrics. So this outfit, Beyonce has the gray two-piece with the matching shoes. I don't know what that fabric is, but I can tell that it is very heavy and stiff and probably even rough to the touch. It feels very separate from her. It's probably scratching her. So there's this perceived delicacy and softness with this type, and you want the fabrics to flow into that. And when a fabric is so stiff and then the silhouette of this is so sculpted that it really doesn't have any of that flow, there's a great degree of separation from her. I do enjoy the sculpted element of this. I think that's incredible, and it could have potentially been a great moment for her because it does have great shaping. So if the fabric and the colors actually suited her, it was like shinier and just a little bit more delicate. And even if maybe just the top was that sculpted, but she had flow in the skirt, like so much could have been done. But the way that it is really very separate from her, and then also the color of it, that gray is just super dull on her, and it's not doing her any justice. To the right of that, that green two-piece, the suit, also the fabric feels extremely hard, sharp, and too heavy for her. Details. Details should be soft, intricate, ornate, and feminine, with emphasis on framing your face. Oversized bows, flouncy ruffles, and delicate lace are always good choices as long as they are luscious and womanly instead of little girlish. Necklines should be soft and draped with curved edges. Ornate necklines are especially sophisticated. Shoulders should be curved with round pads. Shoulder tucks or gathers. Sleeves should be tapered at the wrist with intricate buttons or very soft and flowing. All kind of sparkle is excellent. The waistline should always be emphasized with soft gathers, folds, draped sashes, and lightweight and supple belts to give a cinched effect. Belt buckles should be intricate and feminine. So the more quote unquote feminine, delicate, soft, and ornate, the better for this type. I almost want to think of every aspect of the outfit as a space to add a touch of glamour. The neckline, where you have two fabrics joining perhaps at the waist, all of these places are great places to add that touch of detail because it brings it to life and makes it more interesting, and it chosen correctly makes it more glamorous. So looking at this outfit of Kate Winslet, I think this is for a show she did. She is like the ruler or the leader in some capacity. In any case, she is wearing this dress and she has done a great job of taking an otherwise simple bodycon type dress and then elevating it with all of these glamorous touches. So at the neckline and where the short sleeve ends, the edging of that sleeve, she has all this ornate kind of applique detail also at the waist, which always important. But then she's wearing that soft billowy shirt underneath and it gathers beautifully at her wrist. So another nod to softness and smallness, and it just creates a sense of movement when she walks because it's so light and it billows, and that rounded shape right before the wrist is beautiful. So just a great example of taking an otherwise okay dress and elevating it by the use of specific details. Next to her, Beyonce is wearing a simple outfit as well, a white shirt and black shorts, black hat and black boots. So very simple, but the detailing of the look is what elevates it. That embroidery, I think it is, of the black roses on that shirt is what brings this outfit to life. Without it, we're really in boring territory and there's not much to look at. So that detail, super amazing. It's high waisted, so it sits at the waist and it just looks like you can cinch in her shorts and tie at the waist. Important for this type, gives them great shape. And her boots are also lace up, and the lace up aspect of it makes it more feminine in a way, because it's very ornate. This is a type where if something looks not even complicated, but like it requires a lot of effort and attention, that creates that sense of glamour and it works for them. So ornate detailing really works beautifully for them. They both look great. Avoid all tailored, angular, or severe detail. So in this look, Beyonce is wearing a tailored pant and coat. And what I see really is just a lot of straight lines, a lot of angularity, and a lot of sharpness. And because of the coloring of this pattern, like it has stripes, which is again more straight lines, it's just very separate from the rounded softness of this type. It makes it even more severe and it makes it clash against her. And she not only has one pattern, but she has another one in the top or vest underneath that coat. So just too much going on, and it looks very cluttered on her. Avoid all chunky, rough, or oversized detail and all geometric necklines. That second look, she's wearing this sweater that only reads to me as chunky and rough. The texture of that sweater feels heavy and probably not soft or lush to the touch, so that roughness doesn't work for her. The shoe itself feels chunky as well. So there's just a lack of elegance in the entirety of that looks that does not mesh well with her. The deconstructed suit look to the right of that, including her hair in that next look, just is very separate from her also. It entirely is devoid of glamour. Firstly, because it reads as unfinished, and this is a type where everything needs to be done, everything needs to be polished. So, this is the furthest from what could possibly be flattering on her. Avoid all crisp detail, perky bows with tiny ruffles. So, if you recall, the detailing said that bows and gathers and that kind of thing is very good for this type. They look great in it, but it has to look womanly and not little girlish, and that is the distinction. So here, this looks very little girl. It looks like a dress that would be worn by a flower girl at a wedding, and that little girl energy is very separate from the grown and sexy energy of the romantic type. Avoid all minimal or no detail looks. Again, a type that is requiring some level of glamour, and that often comes in the styling and the detailing and in the accessories and what you choose to pair the outfit with. So this is not flattering, not only because the colorway is so dull on Beyonce, it's almost like her hair is meshing into her dress, which is not that far off from the color family of her skin tone. So it's just all one thing. It's very monochromatic. But then she has no details either. And also the shape of the dress doesn't work for her. But there's just no detail to it whatsoever. It's just a plain sack like dress. And she really looks incredibly boring and not anywhere near her best. Avoid all childish or overly playful details. Now, that is not something that Kibbe said. There's a star next to it because I've added that myself. But for the reason of this type being one that is very glamour adjacent, perhaps not even adjacent, it's like baked into the cake, a certain level of glamour and polish. Without it, they just look undone. So when they lean into very youthful, childish styles, which can be either little girl or little boy in the case of Drew Barrymore to the far right, it's too youthful and it comes off as unsophisticated on them. So to be avoided. And then I just wanted to discuss a little bit more that idea that romantics should avoid all crisp detail, perky bows, and tiny ruffles. Again, I think distinction is Making sure that it feels womanly and grown as opposed to little girl. So that first look we talked about, that white dress feels too little girl and too just not mature enough. That should be avoided. But then secondly, it also needs to feel polished and sophisticated. So that third look, where there's just a lot of tulle, it looks so disorganized. I don't know what the idea behind that dress is, but it doesn't work for this type because it's just coming off as unpolished. It's not even the fabric. Well, it is the fabric, but it's just the way that it's cut. It looks too jagged, too rough, lacking the polish that this type requires. And the one to the middle, for me, reads as a little bit too ornate. And for a lot of different reasons, it's just things going on that don't work together. I especially dislike that high neckline and that very tight collar where it's like she can't breathe. This is a type often best served by an open neckline where there's that ease and then make it glamorous. So that detailing feels very little boy to me, that collar, like it's a school shirt. And then the fit is not great for her. It's just really not one of her great looks, but that tiny detailing is what I wanted to point out. These are all the ways in which it doesn't work for a romantic type. However, if we look to the right, these looks read very youthful and they have a lot of crisp, perky detail, but they work on her. So that blue dress with that bow and all those ruffles and that tulle, it's very little girl coded, but it still has a sense of sensuality to it, and that's why it works for her. And then she's glamorized it in the way that she styled her hair and her earrings and her purse. All of these things add that additional touch of glamour that makes this work. And to the right of that is a very fun look that I think is a more polished way to pull off what I think maybe something like that third dress could have been trying to do. I understand they have a very different feel, but there's similarities. It's just that the one to the right feels intentional. It feels polished and precise, and it doesn't look haphazard. So it pulls off feeling fun on her. It's a fun dress. Whereas that third look, it just looks incomplete and feels very disorganized on her. Separates. Your use of separates should always include an artful blending of plush textures, draped fabrics, and luxurious colors so you never disrupt the soft fluidity of line. So looking at these three ladies, these are separate pieces that they're wearing, but when we look at the outfit, the ensemble, it really comes together beautifully. Starting with Drew, I love how she has repeated the use of those colors to create something cohesive, and it just feels very together. This is a very relaxed kind of look, but all the detailing really looks beautiful on her. She's even wearing a plaid shirt, which is very casual. And again, here we have to remember the importance of individual essences. I do think Drew Barrymore has that ingenue, something youthful. I don't even know if it's ingenue. It could be gaminish. I don't know, but there's something youthful and fun, and this outfit captures it. So this exact same outfit wouldn't work on Beyonce. It's just too casual and it would read as she didn't try enough, but Drew can carry it off. But here, really the important thing is how the repetition of color and the mix of fabrics comes together to create something cohesive and beautiful. For Beyonce, this is a great blend of separates because the color palette that comes together to create something also cohesive, but that works with her essence blend. And for her, glamour and polish is very important. So we have the colors coming together nicely. The white detail of that top flows into the white of the skirt, but then the color of the top is very close to the color of her jacket. And the shoe is nude, which mirrors kind of her bag. Very blended, and it just all comes together. And her hair also blends into that color family. So she looks very polished. This is, I think, a very casual look on Beyonce, but this is what casual looks like for her. And then Drew, to the right, is doing a great job of blending colors as well. The color of her hair and the color of her pants and that shirt, it comes together so nicely. The palette is just all there, and it's not too wildly variated. It's definitely within a specific color family, and that sort of blending works great for this type. So that is their best use of separates. Avoid any kind of harsh contrast between top and bottom. So here I do want to discuss this a little bit, because as I was looking at pictures, I think what actually stands is not necessarily that any harsh contrast between top and bottom doesn't work. There's just specifics that need to be respected. So this look doesn't work on Kate Winslet because of, more than anything, the shaping. So the pants are wide and she's lost underneath them. I mean, I feel like I know her legs are there, but I can't actually see them. And then the jacket is too long for her. So it cuts off at an awkward place that really separates her almost into two halves and isn't great for her short vertical line. So it just feels very contrasted between the top and the bottom. And there's a truncation that this creates in the sharpness of that difference in color. However, in these looks, these women are wearing the exact same color, sharp contrast between top and bottom, but I think they work and I think they look great in them. So the difference isn't necessarily the use of harsh contrast, it's how that is done and if all the other important aspects of shape and silhouette and fabric are respected. Starting with Drew, I think she looks absolutely great in here. The softness of that shirt does a beautiful job. That boat neckline, it is soft and it drapes and it flows into itself. It's just a perfect top for this type. And she looks very done up. So she's wearing heels and her pants are beautifully fitted. They have that little bit of a flare. It's like elevated casual that she's doing here, but it doesn't feel stark how she's wearing that black and that white. It actually works beautifully for her because everything else looks great. Likewise, Kate Winslet herself, comparing her in this dress as opposed to that first look, here the black against the white looks wonderful because she has a flowing skirt at the bottom that shapes her body beautifully. And of course, that belt cinching in her waist and giving her that shape again. There's that bow detail, a feminine touch, and her hair is also done a little bit more than in that first look. So all of these things, these little bit of glamour and femininity come together to create a look that flatters her more. And that change in color from black to white is actually an asset because it focuses to the belt, which shapes her. So the focus is on the cinching of her waist and her silhouette. Likewise, Beyonce, the black and white outfit looks great because her pants are doing really the hard work. So they are fitted to her. They are stretchy. They have that draping. They really give her excellent shape and they come all the way to her waist. So that's cinching of the waist, important for this type. And she's wearing a belt there. So very perfect where the black turns into white. And she, again, is also glamorous on top of it. So simple look, but she has her heels on. She's got her hair and she has jewelry and her sunglasses. All of these other things elevate this look. But the black on white, harsh contrast of top and bottom is not a detriment to her. It, again, highlights her shape and suits her really well. That last look to the right, that white on red, sharp contrast, but everything else is so glamorous and it sits at her waist, so she has great shape and the outfit is just very cohesive and it comes together and she looks great. And then here we can see what I think is more in alignment with what Kibbe means when he says to avoid a harsh contrast between top and bottom. So I think all of these looks are unflattering on these women, and so it almost feels like when there's a high color differentiation, especially if the colors are very vivid, like all of these yellows just seem like too much. But again, this will depend on everybody's individual color palette. But this is the kind of harshness that I find to be unflattering on this type. So Beyonce is really just not flattered by very bright yellow. I don't know what her color season is, but when I was doing this research, that became apparent. Every time she wears this kind of color, it's almost the only thing I see. She, I believe, has a very muted sort of color. So actually, anytime she wears very bright neon colors, they detract from her. That first look, all I see is the yellow pants, and then I see her lip color, so there isn't a uniformity. Colors create separation in the outfit. For Drew, I don't think these colors suit her either. It just feels like she's wearing a very separate top and a very separate bottom, and that doesn't work for this type. And they do, as we saw, look better when there is a uniformity or a blending of colors for them instead. That yellow and purple outfit, again, also just very stark. All I focus on is where the skirt starts, so very separate. And the look to the right of it, I again just see the colors. The top also doesn't do her any justice, but just focusing on the colors, too bright on her and then too separate and stark against each other. To the right of that, all I see is that yellow blazer, and for Drew as well, all I see is that yellow shirt. So I think understanding the colors that work on you is important, but also if you're going to be trying to create an artful blending of colors, it's important to avoid anything that is overly vivid, because that obviously detracts from that and will stand out in a very stark and unflattering way. Color. Your use of color should emphasize a watercolor palette of soft pastels and luscious brights. Any shade that is named for a food or flower, like a grape, melon, raspberry, rose, salmon, etc., is a prime candidate. Rich, luxuriously blended colors are your most effective tools to express your lush femininity. Pale neutrals, bone, dove gray, white, taupe, are your best accents. So here we have Beyonce and Drew Barrymore in these three outfits, and I love the use of color in each of them. That artful blend, very watercolor, it almost looks like it's coming out of a painting. That is what this type wants to do. And that first look by Beyonce with the purples and the blues and the pinks and the greens, it really captures that well, and it's so soft and delicate, and she really just looks amazing in it. And Drew, to the right, has a different kind of pattern, a bit more vivid and a little bit more distinct in the shapes of it, but it still has that softness, and I love the pop of color that the flowers bring, and without it that would become boring. So there's a requirement for that vividity, but not in a way that is overpowering. And then Beyonce's suit to the right of that does a similar thing, just in a slightly different palette, but again, it blends into each other while being a bit more distinct than her first look. But all those colors work cohesively and nothing jumps out too much. It's just very warm, and the colors feel thoughtfully chosen. Like the palette makes sense, and it's soft and fun, but it's not overpowering, and it works on her and it looks great. Avoid dark monochromatic color schemes. So here these women look incredibly dragged down in all of these looks. Drew in her black dress, brown boots, it just feels heavy. The color feels heavy, and it's an outfit designed to make her disappear, where this type is not suited for that. You want them to feel light and come to the surface. So her red lip is doing a lot of heavy lifting in this look, but just in general, it's really not flattering for her. It makes her disappear. Likewise, Beyonce. I don't even know really that that's Beyonce. She just is lost behind all of that black. It's too heavy for her. It's visually heavy, and she's robbed of her essence and her vitality in this kind of coloring. And that brown head to toe ensemble for Drew does the exact same thing. She looks incredibly boring. It's just a sad color for her. I want her to come to life, and these colors do not do that for these women. Avoid neutral monochromatic color schemes. So here Beyonce is wearing this very nude beigey bodysuit, and there's no detailing. It's just one up and down flat color. It really doesn't do anything for her. It's kind of like that dress we saw her in before, but this sort of color, it strips her of life and energy, and she really requires detail to come to life. So this kind of color scheme feels very boring and aging on her. Avoid sharp color contrast. So here I have two styles of color contrast. That black and white is more of a pattern form, but it's such a dramatic, stark pattern that really, it almost looks like an optical illusion, and it's too dramatic for this type. So avoid that kind of sharp contrast. And then, as we saw with all of the bright colors and how when they're contrasted against each other, they take away from this type. That is to be avoided as well. Prints. Prints should be rich and luscious with the emphasis on an abstract watercolor blend. Think Monet. Swirls of color flowing together with soft and rounded edges may be used in abundance. Keep prints luxuriously large. Oversized florals or feather shapes are especially lovely. So here we see bright color, vivid displays, and large abstract patterning and detailing to those prints, and that looks great for this type. If it looks like it should be in a museum, that is something that looks great for them. I really love all of these looks and how they've blended colors and patterns, and they just look so vibrant, and it really brings them to life. In my research for this video, I looked at a lot of pictures of Drew Barrymore over the years, and she is somebody who wears a lot of patterns, and for good reason. They especially just bring her to life because I think they capture this youthful energy of her. So more of her essence comes alive when she's wearing them. And perhaps more important is that when she's not wearing them, how much of her essence is lost. So looking at these first, just notice how vibrant and youthful, and yes, she's younger, but it's not even that, it's just the energy of it, and there's a glow and it's fun, and she looks very lively in all of these looks. And then contrast that to her in plain solid colors without any patterning, and what I see is her being drained of that life force. There is a lightness to her that is now no longer there. It's just very boring, but it just strips away something from her, and I want to see her in more of those patterns and colors and fun details, and that brings her to life. Avoid geometrics. So we saw this picture earlier of Beyonce with that geometric shirt and the stripes of this jacket. Too geometric, too stark against her. It doesn't suit her. Likewise, Drew in this neon geometric piece. It's a little bit too geometric, and also avoid contemporary styles, which I think works again because this feels like a very contemporary pattern. And anytime you can draw it with a straight line, it's going to work against this type. You almost want to look for something that is swirly. So once it starts to swirl and you bring those circles in, it suits a romantic. But when it's very geometric and neon and contemporary in nature, then it is very detached from them. There's a juxtaposition between themselves and that sort of pattern. Avoid animated styles and small prints. So here, this third look, very geometric as well, but also contemporary, and the coloring just feels a bit buzzed. So not great for her. Avoid animated prints and small prints. So the smallness of this animated print, it's like a cheated style, doesn't suit Drew. I want to see her again back in those swirls and those flowers and in general a lighter colorway. This doesn't work for her, and the one to the right of it feels way too, again, geometric and contemporary and busy, but in a way that is too mathematical, that really doesn't feel soft enough for her. Avoid symmetrical prints and stripes. So the striping of this pantsuit leans again into that geometric, because it's straight lines, you're just drawing it with a ruler, and that creates that angularity which is so separate from this type. And finally, avoid plaids. So we did see her in the plaid shirt before, that worked, but that was more so how she was using color to make everything work, and that is so important. But generally speaking, plaid is something that you want to avoid for this type. And in this case, it's not working for her either, because there is a great separation between the top and the bottom of this outfit. It's just a very neon, checkered, geometric print up top and no continuation, just very separate from her. There's really nothing about it that suits her. And in general, you want to avoid that. Evening wear. Fitted shapes with ornate necklines and waist emphasis. Sheer fabrics, draped fabrics, sparkly fabrics, elaborate trim, hourglass ball gowns, swirling chiffon gowns, ornate cocktail dresses, and bustier dresses. This is where the romantic comes to life and they really get to come to play in the arena of evening gowns. Everything that we generally think of when we think of that is ultra feminine, and it is built on the idea of a romantic as the basis. The applique and diamante detail, things falling off and swirling, draping that just cinches the waist and gives that beautiful hourglass figure, big hair, ornate hair, glamorous makeup, and glamorous earrings and little purses. All of that is the forte of the romantic. The looks displayed here showcase this. I love that first look by Beyonce. Look at all of that detailing and the shimmering detail on the fabric, but look at how beautifully it drapes her body as well, how that fabric just it's like a masterclass in draping to give that beautiful shape, and then it cascades over her. It is stunning. And then her earrings are so large and glamorous, so is her hair and her bracelet. She's not holding a bag, but I imagine she's holding something that would be diamond studded, and she would just look incredible. In the middle, she's wearing an ornate cocktail dress with the ornate detail being all of that embroidery on her chest area. So there's a nude mesh, and atop that mesh is all of that, those pink roses and the vine, and very delicate, very soft, very feminine, and it really brings that otherwise boring dress to life by giving it all that additional detail. And her hair is very old Hollywood, very glamorous, and she looks amazing. And of course, Marilyn Monroe, the rouging of that skirt to give shaping, and the crystals or diamante detail in going down the middle, and then in her bodice, and in that scarf that just falls to the bottom. So when she walks, there's all this shimmering detail. Absolutely stunning. And of course, her iconic hair and the red lipstick and the diamonds everywhere. They all just look so glamorous and so stunning. So the key to their evening looks is glamour. A very sophisticated, highly polished, glamorous look is what they're going for. And with that, I've come to the end of my romantic breakdown, and I would love to know if this is your type. Are you a romantic? And of course, also let me know if you agree with my assessment. In the following video, I will be doing the romantic sample wardrobe, where I break down a shopping guide for this type, but not just the pieces that I recommend you buy, but also accessories, as well as a breakdown of the body type, as well as hair and makeup. If you would like to have that, I would love to give it to you. Just follow the link in the description box and I will send that over to you. I hope this helped, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thank you so much for watching till the end. If you like the content that I'm creating, or if you want to discuss anything I touched on in the video, please do so. Leave me a comment. Also, like the video, and of course, subscribe and turn on those notifications. I'll see you on the next one.